Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us here today. Greatly appreciate you taking some time out of your day to see what we're up to here at Revizto. And our focus today will be on Revizto Plus. And the first feature that we've released for Revizto Plus is our Clash automation. So that's going to be the center point of what we're talking about here today. My name is Dan McKinnon. I'm the Canadian National Manager for Revizto. With me here today is Laura Sharp, who is our Canadian Implementation Manager. Additionally, we've got some guests here from Provincia Wa as well as from Alice Dawn, and I'll make those introductions in just a moment. But you can see their names on the screen right now. If you're really wondering who those good-looking gentlemen are, you can check that out right there. So our goal here today. Let me, Laura, if you want to move to the next slide, we'll kind of get into what we're going to cover here. So. Our focus here today is to get into a little bit about what we've come up with Revizto Plus and with our Clash automation. As I said, that's the signature tool in Revizto Plus right now. Through the course of the session today, we've got some giveaways, so I'll go over what we're giving away here in the next slide, and we'll draw some of those here at the end of the session. We'll talk a little bit about our development. We've got a proud history of trying to be pushing our platform on every opportunity we can to make improvements for the AECO industry. So we'll talk a little bit about our development priorities, a little bit about security, the security implications of some of our enhancements as they apply to our Canadian customers particularly. Then we'll get in the panel discussion, and this is going to be really interesting because we've chosen a couple of companies that we've been working with for quite some time, and we're among the 90 customers that we have globally that participated in our closed beta group. So they've been in Revizto Plus and the Clash automation tools now for about 4 months or so. So they'll have some of their initial impressions, and we'll get into that and have a little bit of Q&A at the end of that so that you guys can hit them up with some questions. And then from there, Laura and when I say Laura and I mean really Laura, and I'm going to try not to get in her way, as she starts to actually go through a Clash automation workflow. So we're not going to just go into what the tool does, but we'll talk a bit about how this workflow will impact your organization as you start to use Revizto's Clash automation tools. Then we'll talk about the impacts of this on our license model. And then from there, we'll open up for a good solid Q&A period. So if you guys want to get into the nitty gritty of how does it do this, or you want to get some more clarification on something that we have talked about, we'll be able to get into that right there. So with that said, Laura, if you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide, because everybody likes to get stuff for free. And I will talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing here today. So we've got some swag we're giving away. We've got a couple of fleece blankets. We've got 3 of our branded tumblers. We've got some sticker packs. Jameson Cox, our North American marketing manager, really went to town and came up with some great sticker combinations. We're seeing them on hard hats that's starting to appear all over the world. So we'll give you guys a chance to get some of these sticker packs as well. And then the big draw that we'll be doing here is going to be for a 60-day proof of concept. So if you're in a situation where you look at what we're doing here with Revizto Plus and our Clash automation, and you think, okay, this is something that can really help our organization, then please put your name in the chat and just say POC next to your name, because I only want to draw from people who feel like they're going to have the time in the early part of the year to go through a 60-day proof of concept. It will include training, support, implementation, as well as an unlimited amount of users for 60 days with Revizto Plus. So that's a really good opportunity if that timing works out for you and you think that there's some value that way. So please make sure to put your name in there, and I see some people already starting to do that. So with that said, Laura, if you take a move to the next slide here, and we'll talk a little bit about Revizto's commitment to development. I know, having been working with AECO in Canada now for the better part of 20 years, one of the things that we see and hear on a regular basis is the applause for our commitment to development. That when we roll out a tool or we roll out functionality that is something that can really help an organization, the next thing they turn around, there's a new feature or capability that we've added. We try to be focused on what our customers need. We try to include that in our wish list. And that's how our development goes. So even though we've been a product for 2015, I've got a snapshot here from 2018 on. You can kind of see where, as we developed our tool, the maturity of the tool has come along. So in 2018, BIM collaboration was the primary focus of the additions that we made in that year. In 2019, more focus on the automation, integration, the stamps and things of that nature. In 2020, this was a big year. A year ago in December, on December 22nd last year, we rolled out our brand new version of Revizto, Revizto 5, and we totally revolutionized the way that our product handled the I in BIM, bringing that information and getting that data from the supporting file types that we have so that you can leverage them in a way to make them actionable and usable to your entire project team. Then what we've done here in our focus this year has been about security, about workflow, and as we're talking about today, Revizto Plus and its first major application, clash automation. So we have in fact created a premium version of our product. Our core product Revizto is still very much the powerful coordination tool it has been, but you're going to see a focus here on Revizto Plus, where we will be focusing on advanced BIM workflows, leveraging your data, automating the processes. This is where Revizto Plus functionality is going to continue to be developed for those organizations that consider themselves to be advanced BIM users. We want to give them the tools to be able to make that, take that information and get it out to the entire project team. So in development, I can't say too much, and I probably put too much on the screen that I probably shouldn't have anyway, but so that you guys can kind of know where we're going. Advanced clash automation will be is not something exactly I'm keeping under our hat, as Laura is going to give you a sneak peek of that here today. We're a couple of weeks from rolling our advanced clash automation tools out, and you're going to see some of the benefits of that in what Laura will present here today. We've got API integration coming up, issue tracker for the web, our certification for ISO 27001. I'll talk about that in a moment. And our advanced checklist for the field. So we've got a lot of things in the works, and the development is in process. So as we get closer to releases, we'll let you know. So one thing I'll talk about our customer success plans is all of our user packs include a level of training, support, and implementation. Even though Revizto is a very easy to integrate product, it has a low hurdle to get into the product. Our commitment to our customers is to hire people like Laura, people that have got a significant amount of experience in construction or design or in other specific disciplines. We have 19 of them on our team. And the focus is to make sure that we have people that understand regional workflows, understand the nature of the workflows that you have to deal with every day, so that we can come in and instead of telling you, here's how you use our tool, we can come in and consult with you to see what your workflow is and see what things make sense and work with you in tandem to develop a solution that works. So this is one of the things I'm the most proud of in working with Revizto, is that we have a great product that's constantly moving to do more and more advanced capabilities as we move along. But additionally, we have a technical team that will help you navigate bringing that new technology in. Thanks, Laura. If you want to change the next one. All right. I mentioned about security enhancements. I'm not going to go all into this. If you guys have questions about anything that I've talked about here today, my email will be at the end of the presentation, and feel free to reach out to me. The reason I point out security enhancements in this session is that I know we've got a number of clients that are working for provincial entities, federal government, or deal with contractual issues around making sure that they have data sovereignty here in Canada. Well, with our private regional servers, we're able to facilitate that. We made a step to make it easier to integrate with your IT by adding single sign-on at the beginning of this year. And as I mentioned before, the ISO 27001 compliance, we're in the process of going through that audit right now, and our processes are being aligned to that, and we expect to see that by the early part of 2022. Again, the reason I bring this up is it might help you fulfill contractual obligations. It might help you be able to offer a competitive advantage over other clients or other competitors that are working in the space, and you need to have this functionality to give that step up. But it's important for you guys to know that we have that capability, and that gives you the confidence to use the cloud to sync these projects up to your project team, and to also confirm to your clients that you are committed to the security of their data. Thanks, Laura. All right. So you'll see up in the top left-hand corner here, I call this my clash group. I didn't use automatic clash detection to come up with these four people, and I'm hoping for no conflicts. But this is our clash group here today for our presentation. I don't know if we're going to have Sebastian here. I don't see him that he's come in. Ah, he is. I see him on there now. All
Hello,
right,
Dan.
perfect. Hello, Sebastian. There we go. Terrific. So these are the fine folks that we brought together here today. And this is just a sneak peek so you can go, wow, so those are a bunch of fine looking, smart gentlemen that we brought in here today. Well, do you want to move to the next slide, and we'll come back to these folks in just a minute. Talk just a moment about each of these organizations. So we've been working with Provincial Law for a while now. And we wanted really to get two firms that were involved in our closed beta. These are two of the firms that have 90 global customers that have been in this, the Clash Automation tool here since the summer. And we wanted a design firm and a construction firm because the desires and needs around Clash Automation related to the two fields are different. So we wanted a couple of our leading candidates that are producing high quality work. And in the case of Provincial Law, that's exactly what we're getting, a recognized international firm that it focuses on multidiscipline coordination and is pushing the envelope on a variety of projects. So in their case, this was a good R&D initiative for them to be able to look at how can this Clash Automation work for us and how can we incorporate it moving forward. And Laura, if you move to the slide one over, that would be great. And Ellis Dawn has been working with Revizto for 4 years now. And we've been involved in a variety of projects from coast to coast. And again, the reason we brought them into this in their case was more to see what more can we bring to the table from what they've been doing with Revizto, with some of the tools that are coming out in Revizto, plus aligned to a lot of the initiatives for a coordinated BIM environment that Ellis Dawn excels at in their various regions that they support. Laura, if you move us back over, and here we are back to those fine-looking gentlemen again. I don't want you guys to think I'm flirting with them, so I'm not going to keep commenting on how handsome these fellows are. But we will get into what we're here to talk about today. So, as I said, I wanted to bring them in to give a cross section of conversation points related to what their first impressions were, what kind of things they're dealing with. And so I'm going to start with a question that I'm going to put out to both Sebastian and then to Hamad as well, which is going to talk more about from the big picture perspective of what does a clash-free design, like where does this fit in your priorities? How does this align to your goals? Why is it important to you? So maybe Sebastian, if you'd like to talk about, what you guys have done prior to this and what you hope to be able to do with Revisto's Clash Automation.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, for the invitation. By the way, we are very glad to be here. Like you said, we have tried the new version of Revizto Plus that has come last month, and that was very interesting because what we want to bring into our practices is a more efficient way to do our coordination. Right now, we have some issue to do the coordination because we have very different context in the design phase. Things are moving very fast. We have to be very close where the traditional coordination occur. And Revizto Plus give us this opportunity to leverage this coordination process. And because it's, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but because it's a real effort to do clash detection process in a real context, that will be very interesting to add a tools that is just, be very close from the traditional way of doing coordination. So what we want to achieve with that is to be close to our traditional coordination, bring added value, and be very close to the teams to be efficient.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Sebastian. And Hamad, just in terms of the big picture of you guys have been federating models and doing clash detection process with other tools over the years. would you like to talk a little bit about how that fits into your picture and why you've been wanting to see a clash detection tool as part of your coordination workflow in Revizto?
Absolutely. Thanks, Dan, for having us. And that workflow, regardless of what kind of we're doing, let's go traditional construction. We take the design information and we got to construct it. We need to build it. And in that process, we go through a lot of coordination issues, if you want to call it that, whether it is a clash-based model kind of equivalent or whether it's just information that was not available because at the design phase, you can't get into that granularity. Entering into the digital workflows with the traditional Autodesk suite, it allowed us to really leverage technology to find a lot of the kind of constructability issues by running the hard clashes and bringing that forward a lot earlier if we had those models, and then getting the subcontractors involved and getting that going. But another problem that came from that was just that kind of tech stack that now we have to subscribe to. And it isn't necessarily being developed or kept up to date, if you want to call it that, with the latest developments in technology. So very quickly, even though it's a very digital process, it feels kind of archaic in many ways for us. And that's because our teams, like Patrick can jump into that later on too, is that their time is spent waiting for software sometimes. And that's not the best use of their time, in our opinion. And, depending on the site as well, there's so many other things that can happen. So kind of coming into that automated kind of clash detection is not only reducing maybe our dependency on a tech stack that would be very beneficial if that can actually go through. It would also be taking away from that process where, in the past we created XML files and all of this to structure Navisworks clashes. So now we've got that within Revizto, but then Revizto would also be that single point of contact for us to do the automated clash detection. So no more bringing that in from another software. And the key there is if we can everybody can use it as an integrated collaboration platform, then we're kind of alleviating one of the pain points in that process, which is really, really big. So, it's exciting to see this. I think there's a lot of potential, but of course, there's still a lot of work we need to do, given that we can't really disrupt the entire workflow right now without proving it through on the complexity of different projects, whether it's some of the smaller ones or the hospitals, everything in between. So that's kind of where we're at, and it's exciting to see that.
Thanks very much, Hamad. So we'll piggyback right on top of that and pass things right over to Patrick to talk about just your impressions as a guy who's coordinating these projects on a regular basis, and you've been leveraging Revizto for a while, being able to add this to your workflow. What are your first impressions of what you see? What kind of what kind of benefits do you see to this workflow as it relates to the way you've been dealing with Clash previously?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to me is sort of the ease of use and the transparency. So having the ability, like, other tools out there, I find have been around for a while and have not really kept up with the times in terms of user interface or user experience. And I really liked the way that the automation tool uses sort of graphics to sort of explain what that particular tool does, whether it's a hard clash or a soft clash, and the radiuses and things. Just having like those little sort of nodes and graphics to help sort of understand what the tool is doing and the functions of the tool, I think really helps people be confident in the types of clashes that they're doing. And then the transparency with the being able to share this amongst a group of people. So having the shared search sets and having that clash automation function to be able to be performed by several members of the team. So everyone is sort of in the know with how it's set up, how it's configured, and and what the results are. So, before with some of the other tools, they're sort of offline and local, and they're kind of happening in a separate, isolated machine or with an individual user, and then only the reports are displayed to the people that are reading them. But in this way, sort of everyone kind of has access to the whole configuration of the automation, and I think that really helps people feel confident in the results.
Perfect. Great insight. And Guillaume, from the design perspective, in the period of time that you've been running Revizto Plus and going through the clash automation process, what are your first impressions of what you think this can do or help with as you incorporate that into your workflow?
Yeah, pretty much what Patrick said also applies to the design side of things. One of the things that I really appreciated with Revizto Plus is that I find it's kind of in a sweet spot. We've had some older tools that are very manual, and as Patrick said, the interface is not necessarily up to date. And there's been some other tools that pop here and there in order to do some clash detection that are mostly automatic, but you can't really control what happens. The beauty behind the older tools is that you have control over exactly how you clash everything, and you really are in control of what's happening. So with the automatic tools, if something goes wrong, then you're pretty much out of luck usually. But with Revizto Plus, I found that it's kind of in a sweet spot where you can set up everything you want and have it work pretty nicely, but most of the long and redundant tasks are automated. So I feel like the automation is at the right spot so that you can still leverage the different workflows you want to put in place and have a lot of control over what clashes against what and how. So that's a point that I really appreciated. Also, I find that the integration with the other Revizto tools and the issue tracker is really nicely done. It already works nicely with other tools that are available on the market, but the integration is even better with Revizto Plus. So I feel like being able to pre-configure everything and then run the clashes according to the project timeline works really nicely.
Perfect. That's excellent. Thanks so much, Guillaume. So the question that I was going to ask right now are that there's a reason why everybody doesn't use clash detection, and sometimes you don't have a federated model with enough BIM information to do that. Maybe you don't have the technical skill in your organization. So everybody has problems that they have to look at when they're integrating a clash detection tool into their workflow. Do you guys get the sense that there's anything, and I'll just put this out first to Guillaume and Sebastian, whichever one of you would like to take this and run with it, is do you see, especially from a design perspective, you guys will have certain projects that it's obvious that you're not going to be able to use clash detection on, and other ones where hopefully you can. What do you see Revizto Plus's approach to clash automation solving some of those problems or helping you to integrate it into more projects?
Yeah, we'll take that one, Dan. We all received this famous requirement. Okay, we are 2 weeks to delivery the project, run a clash detection. And what occurred? We got 1,000 in clash, and the project manager are not very happy because we just said you have a clash, like you have 1,000 of clash be in front of you, and you just have 2 weeks to resolve all of them. So what we do, we just don't look to them and we deliver the project like that. So it's not mean that will occur to bad quality project, but it's just because that require a lot of effort to do clash detection. It's not that simple to just push on a button and arrive at a great result. What we want to achieve and what we see in Revizto Plus, and we'll be able to follow the design stage at every month or week, very more close to the coordination process, like I said at the really, very beginning. So for me, for us, this is a big step forward to be able to not maybe run automatically all the clash detection, but to be with less effort, do clash detection more often and reduce the famous 1,000 list of clash to clash who are more accessible to the teams, who will speak to the project manager, will speak to the teams as well, because that is very interesting. On the other side, what is very interesting we can bring a standardized approach to the coordination process. Nobody like to restart over every time we do a clash detection with rules people invite when the trouble occurs. So to us, to use Revizto Plus as a model use to do their traditional coordination, and the other side in the automatic clash, it's very big step forward to our practices to improve the way we do a clash detection right now.
Perfect. Thanks, Sebastian. Again, I'll throw this out to either Patrick or Hamad about what you guys, if you see from your GC perspective, specific issues that get in the way of running clash detection on your projects that Revizto Plus might enable or make easier for you.
Yeah, I think I'll start off with Pat's going to probably fill out the edges there. The key thing for us is being able to get the clashes done and out the door in a key amount of time. And a lot of our coordinators, the traditional workflow, or even right now using, Revizto as our clash detection database, if you want to call it that, there's a lot of work involved in getting that point. So depending on the project and the timelines, are you able to run the clash detection in time to keep up with the schedule, so on and so forth. With the new Revizto Plus, the automated aspect of it kind of reduces that pain point, right? So they'll be able to free up a little bit of that cap and that question mark of, hey, can we actually get this done on a weekly basis in time? The other thing is the opportunity to upskill our organization. So, I mean, apart from VDC folk, there's project coordinators, M&E coordinators. And if you have a Revizto Plus project and we've got the kind of automated clash detection set up, then those different teams and folks can probably leverage it on their own as well. And the key piece, obviously, of all of this is we involve our subcontractors and design teams into the platform. So, of course, if it's a Revizto Plus project, I think everybody can benefit a little bit if they want to use those tools. Pat, is there anything that you want to add into that?
Yeah, I think just generally sort of normalizing and making the clash automation process much more sort of routine and integrated into the overall coordination process is sort of key. And I think that helps to to kind of bring it all together and to make it a little less overwhelming for people. I think that's always seems to be a roadblock when you do a clash report and spit out 1,500 clashes and everyone kind of like freaks out a little bit. So being able to do a more specific clash tests and be able to filter out the insignificant ones and only focus on the ones that matter. Being able to do that in a more easy way is really helps with adoption and bringing people on board.
Perfect. And Guillaume, did you want to add anything to this at all?
Well, sure. Yeah, being able to pre-configure the clashes and everything in terms of workflow makes it so much more approachable for everyone involved. Since traditionally with other workflows, people that would configure the clash detections would be more BIM-centric, if I can say this, and they would be the one that would create the tests, and then they would have to sort out which clashes are significant or not significant in terms of coordination. And the people that have the more knowledge in terms of construction and coordination and project experience are not necessarily the one that have the most BIM experience. So you'd have kind of a split up workflow where you couldn't leverage every pieces of knowledge in your team, because you'd have to have the BIM tools set up by the BIM-centric people, if I can say this, and then you'd have to present the clashes. Either you'd present thousands of clashes and then they don't know what to do with it, or you pre-sort them out the best you can. But being able to preset everything in Revizto, do the configuration within the BIM team, and then ask the coordination team to come in and sort out the clashes. I feel like the way it's laid out in Revizto Plus makes it much more approachable. And I can see myself asking someone that is not necessarily that used to working with BIM softwares and going out and sorting out which clashes are significant and being able to leverage the maximum out of this exercise.
Perfect. Well, thanks guys so much for that input on that. So one of the next questions I wanted to ask is a pretty subjective one. You guys are professionals in what you do every day. You've been using tools for a long time. Is there anything about, and I'm throwing this question out to you guys, I never told you ahead of time, so just to throw a monkey wrench because you've been handling them all so well, I just want to be able to see if I can throw a curveball at you here. Is there anything that you looked at when you started going through this, through Revizto Plus and the clash automation, that you went, oh my God, that is so cool, or oh my God, that's going to save me so much time? Was there something in the process that when you looked at the functionality and that workflow that you said, wow, that's going to change some aspect of how I spend my time doing my job when we're running clash automation through Revizto Plus's tool? And I'll turn that one over to, we'll start with Elston on that one. So whichever you guys want to jump with that, if you got something.
You want to take this one?
Yeah, I can take this. You know, I don't know if there's one particular like aha moment, but I think just the overall experience, you know, like being able to do all of that in one platform was just sort of like, it was refreshing to experience, essentially. Like, you know, instead of having to switch back and forth between, you know, several tools and take the clash report and, I don't know, log an Excel file, or, you know, export and import the clashes from one program to another. I think just the overall user experience from start to finish was you know, very refreshing, and I think that was sort of like a nice feeling, because you know, a lot of times we run into these sort of roadblocks and hiccups working with different softwares. So it was nice to have sort of a one-stop shop to do everything we need to do. Yeah.
And from the provincial watching?
Yeah, the fact that we can pre-assign different people in different tests, and then just take ownership of the test, sort some things out, and then somebody can take over and do some other sorting, and you can leave some tests if you're not sure and you want to get some input from somebody else. The fact that you can just start something and then work multiple people on the same tests, but keep it still organized and still streamlined, I guess. Trying to do this in traditional tools would be all over the place. I feel like the work sharing possibilities in this with this tool are really easy, since you can preset a bunch of stuff and then just synchronize with the issue tracker, and then everything will be created consistently, and you can basically leverage more people in the process and make sure that you can get the most out of it.
Perfect. Let's see. How about you guys have all been interacting with our implementation team, various members of our team, in fact, from Laura to Sean Hester to David Ray, have been involved with your implementations as you guys moved along. So I'll start with Sebastian, actually. How's that experience been for you guys to bring Revizto Plus into your workflow and interacting with our team as part of that implementation process?
Yeah, very, very bad.
I was afraid you were going to say that, and I thought I would just put it out in front of everybody. So there you go,
Yeah.
folks. It's terrible to work with Laura and our team.
Yeah, no, that was very, very, very fun. A lot of expertise on your side. We feel that you were a member of the team member to have to produce. So we really like that. You have a lot of experience with the tools, and I was very happy because I feel that I can call you when I have an issue, and when it's time to do coordination is right now, and you have to make the thing done right now. So that was very fun to have you guys just beside us, not doing the job for us, but help us to understand what is going on there, and with our own experience to see other tracks on involvement. And I feel that you are open to our suggestion and in the involvement of the platform. And for us, when we implement something, we don't want to just implement a tool. We want to have a collaboration, a partnership with the teams who are working, and you provide that.
Well, thanks. That's much better than the way this started, Sebastian. So thanks.
Yeah, I know.
And from the Ellis Dawn team, if either you guys want to talk about your experience having to work with Laura and Sean Hester and our construction group.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't been able to work too much recently with Laura. Our teams have been doing that pretty consistently, but in the beginning, working with Dan and Sean was very helpful, especially getting us onboarded as we went from one project and then kind of scaled up really quickly to half a dozen or more. So in that sense, I mean, it was kind of a pivotal need, and Revizto stepped in. We had conversations with different people throughout Revizto when needed as well, like with Greg and the different team there. So really appreciate it. And of course, Brett came in when we got really technical and had to kind of troubleshoot some workflows and stuff like that. So quite frankly, I felt like us calling one of our own e-support kind of lines that we have internally, if you want to call it that, right? Like there's a ticketed system process, you're talking to someone on the other end, they care about your project, they understand kind of the delicacies of construction and design as well. Like we don't have time. And so when we run into a problem, we're the trailblazers. So if Revizto is not going to support us, then we'd be stuck. So really appreciate that. And then Pat, I know you probably had some really good implementation stuff as well with the point clouds and all that.
Yeah, I think just generally, having the Revizto team on speed dial is always like a good thing to have. I know there's lots of questions that come up. I try to respect your time as well, and try and group them together. But obviously things come up, and I need to know the answer. Yesterday, and yeah, exactly. So I'm just gonna fire off a phone call or an email, and with a quick note, and you always get back to me to kind of answer that question. So I think that is an overall a good experience, and it helps us get our job done, right? So and that's sort of the key to this whole thing is you don't want to be working against the software, you want the software working with you, and we're all kind of it's a team effort to make it happen. So
excellent. And Guillaume, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, just knowing that there's somebody on the other end to help you if you need anything. We've had some great success so far, but knowing that if we get some issues or anything, if we get a question or a workflow, we need to hone in just to make sure that we get the best out of it, knowing that there's someone on the other end that's there, and it's really nice to have this. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think just for those people in the audience who haven't worked with Revizto yet, or you've used Revizto for basic issue tracking, we support 29 different authoring platforms that come into Revizto. And because our collaborators come from design, engineering, and of course in construction and the ownership areas of building, we end up with a lot of different kinds of questions. And you don't know until you have to get into a project where you've got Inventor, Civil 3D, Bentley, as well as Revit and Navisworks all in the same place, that you're saying, okay, we need to bring these all in. We've got point cloud models that we want to bring in. And now with our clash automation, we've got the ability to run those clashes with the point cloud as well. So we're right at the end of the panel. We'll get into some Q&A here. Is there any final note that one of the Provincia Y and one of the Ellis Don teams would like to make about their experience with Revizto Plus so far?
I can go with a quick one if you want.
Sure.
For our side, it's probably the first time we feel that we can build on something when it's time to do clash detection. Usually that clash was made by one single person at the very end of the process, and that killed everything. Right now with the Revizto Plus, we feel that we can implement a structured way to do our coordination and continuously take back our different templates to move forward. And this is very nice for our process.
Excellent. And Patrick or Haman?
Yeah, I think just generally having sort of that one tool to do everything we need is sort of our biggest benefit, or our biggest sort of hurrah for the Revizto Plus. Not having to rely on a whole network of third-party tools to achieve a product. We can kind of rely on one tool to get the job done, and I think that's the key to our success. And
so one tool to rule them all. Yes,
exactly.
I get that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks guys for that. So I see we've got one question that's already come in. So if you guys have got any other questions, we've got a few minutes put aside here for the Ellis Don and Provincia WA folks. So we have a question from Aman Khan here that says, as Revizto is a relatively new model in the industry, and as we can see being highly used by Ellis Don, how are Ellis Don and Revizto interacting with sub and general contractors to be part of the software and workflow? That's a good question.
Yeah, I think at a high level, we can just say that we want everybody to partake in it. So if we're deploying Revizto, the project team kind of needs to play, if you want to call it that. Pat, do you want to get into more details from that?
Sorry, what was the question again?
The question is that how are Ellis Don and Revizto interacting with subs and general contractors to be part of the software and workflow? So when you've got your project team in there, what's your approach to getting them involved, and I guess that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just having all the communication and information in Revizto is a clear sort of benefit. I think everybody can appreciate having one less email in their inbox and trying to sift through their tasks and sort of obligations and responsibilities through various sources. So kind of having that sort of one central location to know where they need to focus their attention and have all their communication inside of, I think, once they realize the benefits of that, then it's not that hard to get our trades and other stakeholders involved.
And how about flipping that question back over to the folks at Provincia Y? How do you foresee your subs and trades interacting with your project in Revizto?
Yeah, well, it's a very good question. Right now is maybe too soon to answer that very precisely, but for sure, because it's so intuitive, when it's time to talk about the coordination process we want to put in place and multiple use we can do with a single platform. Everyone want the same thing, something simple, who are very efficient, and I think that will be a very facilitated way to have this discussion with our collaborators.
Perfect. And now we've got another question from Dragon. How do you control trade models when they do self clashes against other disciplines? So I think that is the common type of question, is that you've been in a situation where you've had autonomy over that process, and then sort of sort of went through the process of clash and then distilled those results and presented them to your team, to your stakeholders in the project. But now if you're going to start to trust them in that process, how are you going to control or manage that process if you have a vision of how you think you would do that, or how you're doing it currently? Whoever wants to grab that one.
Yeah, I mean, part of that, Dragon, is where we try and use our BIM execution plan to kind of talk through the workflow and the frequency and all of that with our BDC meetings, clash detection process, and the matrix. So, you know, I'll just kind of paint a bigger picture there. But if we're working towards certain milestones, we'll have sign-off areas that we're trying to get towards. So that process with the whole BIM execution plan will help kind of ensure that everyone's pulling their weight. And so going through that kind of with our team, we're able to control and understand what each contractor or subcontractor can actually provide or do comfortably within their skill set. And depending on that, our team can kind of hone in and be like, okay, you know, subcontractor A can really knock this out, no problem there. We're going to focus on subcontractor B, get them up to that workflow level. And in rare situations, if we need to pivot or kind of provide a little bit of a different support, then you know, we're not taking away our clash detection responsibility ever. So even though our subcontractors are saying, hey, we've done our clashes, here's what we want you to, you know, bring up at the next meeting or whatnot, we're still undertaking our own clash detection. I think that's the key here with Revizto Plus, is it will allow the, again, using the same kind of word I used for Revizto in the past, but democratizing BIM in the sense that you don't have to be, like I think Guillaume was saying, like a BIM, you know, expert to leverage it. Now you can be on the subcontractor side. Maybe you know, you have your ticket, you've been on the tools, the company's trying to get you into this digital workflow. You'll be able to use these tools a lot easier than maybe trying to figure out, okay, what is my clash detection workflow in a traditional sense? So I know, Dragon, that's a long answer, but again, different workflows for different project types, using that BIM execution plan, working with the team and filling in the gaps is kind of how we address that.
Perfect. One thing I think I'll point out at this juncture here, we're getting ready to jump into the demo in just a moment, but Revizto is built as a collaboration platform. So our license model comes in two different license models. We've got one that is user group licenses, where I've got a group of users that are all in the license and can be assigned out to various projects. And whenever I invite people in, they come in as guests. The other model that we've rolled out this year is our project-based license. So you can have a project license, you can get a starter license at Revizto Plus and have everyone on the project come in on that as a reasonable price point and be able to maybe build that to the project, or be able to then say, hey, this is how we're bringing people in. Our goal with Revizto Plus and our advanced capabilities here are to be able to streamline workflows and enable you to bring more of the stakeholders in. And I guess the question I'll ask to you guys, if you agree with our philosophy on it, is that we believe that you can set up clash tests in conjunction with your subs or trades to get the results that you guys both want out of it. And then once that's set up, make it a more streamlined process for them to participate in that process in a way that's useful to you and to them. Do you think that that is a reasonable expectation for the projects that you work on, or some of them?
I will go with a quick one, if I may. I think, well, all the intention here is to have all the stakeholder involved in the process. We don't want just one person or one group do the clash detection process. We want to bring as many eyes as we can look to the coordination process. And I think with an integrated platform, as Revizto Plus right now, with the traditional coordination, with the 3D models, and now with the Revizto Plus, that will bring more value, more eyes to the clash detection. That's it.
Perfect. Any other party? Oh, go ahead.
If I can add something, feel like when we do clash detection, if we take the whole model against another whole model, then we hardly get anything useful out of it because it generates so many things, so many clashes. if we want to be able to leverage this, we need to split up things in smaller bits and pieces. And I feel like being able to set up some groups at the beginning of the projects with the different stakeholders in the project, we'd be able to leverage much more insight into the coordination if we preset things and we decide at what moment we run it, being so much lighter in terms of implementation. I guess that most of the weight of the setup can be pushed at the beginning of the project, so that when the moment is right in the project, in order to be able to leverage some insight from the clash detection, if we are able, as you say, to set it up beforehand, we'll be able to be much more agile in the way we place the clash detections in the calendar. And yeah, so I guess, yeah, I think being able to preset everything will be a big advantage.
Perfect. Well, thanks guys very much. I really appreciate all of the insight on this, and I hope that all of our audience have gotten something out of that as well. So we'll make sure that there's a nice parting gift for you all. Thanks for participating. With that said, I think what we'll do is, Laura, if you would move the slide to the next slide, and we'll get into, thanks again, guys. I really appreciate you taking time out to share your insight. What we're going to get into now is a live clash automation demonstration that Laura and I will be doing for you. So these slides that we're showing right now, these are being shown through our 2D workspace inside of Revizto. So we don't do PowerPoint here. We try to integrate everything in Revizto. So maybe Laura, you jump out of 2D and go over to 3D, and we will and we'll have a little discussion about clash automation here, guys. And we'll have some time for Q&A here at the end, and we'll do our drawing at that point as well. But let's, before Laura gets into clash automation, I know you're saying, Dan, shut up. Oh, we want to see what Laura can do with clash automation. Well, I'm excited about it too, but there's a couple things I want to sort of set the stage with. For those people that are in the audience that haven't seen Revizto or haven't seen Revizto for a while, I just want to touch on a couple of things. So as I mentioned when I was going through our development milestones, that December of last year, we rolled out Revizto 5. This was the most ambitious release in our history, well, up until recently. And the big thing that we did in Revizto 5 was to add a lot more tools for being able to integrate with data and to make it more actionable. But just as a review for those people who haven't seen it, the project that you're looking at right now is a project that is consists of a number of authoring tools, from Revit to Federated Navisworks model to Tekla to Rhino to SketchUp. It's all in this particular model right now. The key element of Revizto is that as an integrated collaboration platform, we support 29 authoring tools. We could bring point clouds in. We can bring all these into the same environment, and I don't need the authoring tool to look at them. That this is an integrated environment. This is not a suite of products. We don't have a 2D tool, a 3D tool, and an issue tracker. It's all integrated in one workspace, and you can jump between 2D and 3D and issue tracking. So there's a few things to recognize out of the gate about Revizto if you haven't been in it before, is that Revizto is a standalone application. We use the cloud to sync up to the team, but you do not need a persistent internet connection to work with it. Our customers who are in the northern parts of the provinces or down in parking garages can bring their project with them and interact with that project without that internet connection. Additionally, it's lightweight. The workflow is the same whether I'm on an iPad or whether I'm on a Microsoft Surface or I'm sitting at my desktop computer. I get the same performance, and I'm able to work with it. We use a game engine for portraying our 3D model, so these are lightweight and easy to navigate. The other big thing, and I think the key element of working with Revizto, is that every issue that we create has an X, Y, and Z location. It's either a specific X, Y, and Z location, or it is tied to a specific object inside of the project. And what that means is that if I create an issue, whether it's in 2D or it's in 3D, that issue will appear no matter whether I'm looking at the project in 2D or 3D. That's one of the keys to adoption of Revizto. We recognize that it's not just the BIM folks that are going to get in here, but I've got very skilled project managers and principals and superintendents and contract administrators that want to interact with this project and give feedback along the way. Revizto enables them to do that, and whether they prefer to look at that project in 2D or 3D, they're able to do that inside of Revizto. So we've had this integrated collaboration platform. We've had real-time issue tracking. This has been a key part of what our clients have been using for a while. In this summer, we released our clash automation as our signature piece that was going to roll out Revizto Plus. And this has added the ability to create some automation and be able to leverage that clash automation, not between just the models here, but even between these models and point clouds can be done inside of Revizto. So with that said, I am going to, Laura, if you want to take the driver's seat and start to talk a little bit about Clash and what you need to do to work with it and what that workflow looks like, that would be great.
For sure. Thanks, Dan. So as you can see here, I am going to open up our Clash tool. And I know you guys want me to jump right into it, but I do have to talk about search sets first, because we can't actually create a test without search sets. So this is where all that flexibility comes into. So you can see here, I have a folder that is set up already for the search sets I'm going to use for Clash. Now, the one I selected here is very generic. It is using the source file, and I am going to Clash as this whole structural model. But we can make this as detailed as we want. We can use any of the object property data. We can select objects. We can use section boxes to create those search sets. So again, as detailed or as generic, as detailed or as general as you want to be. So the other thing is that I am going to kind of sneak peek the advanced automation tool, and we do need search sets set up for that. So everything runs around our search set. All right. So the reason why our search sets do need to be in a shared folder, and you can tell that they're shared by this little icon here, is because, again, our Clash automation tool is meant to be collaborative. This isn't a one-man show where one person is doing all the work. Okay, enough about that. You guys want to see Clash. So right now I am in my Clash test list. I can see all the different clashes that have been created. Here I can see that this one needs to be rerun, and Dan is in this. This is something that's a little bit different. This is because, again, it's collaborative. So Dan is in here working. It is locked out to me. I can't make changes, but I can definitely come in and see what it is that is being clashed. Let me see what he has approved here. So you can see he's gone through, he's approved, he's reviewed, and he's actually sunk this to the issue tracker. And now we're in that environment that you are familiar with, right? So back at, like, in our issue tracker, we're used to these typical tools. We have the markup that I've seen here, where I've adjusted this to show my system colors. I can jump into 3D and navigate it that way. I can also see where it is on the 2D and have that X, Y, and Z location and see what sheets those relate to. Something else I want to point out here in the issue tracker is we bring in the metadata with our new Revizto Plus. We can bring in the grid location, the levels, rooms, areas. We also have the ability to create zones. Those could be construction type zones. All right. So one thing I do want to mention, I know this is checked out. Dan's in there, he's working on it. And the reason why we use the checkout and relinquish function here is we don't want, somebody else to come in and change the work that Dan is doing. And we do have some safeguards here because we know what it's like when somebody checks something out and they're working on it and then they go on vacation. So it is automatically relinquished when the test is run, when the Clash is run, when it's synced to the issue tracker. There is also a pop-up warning when Revizto is closed. So we do have those safeguards in place. Okay, let's get into it. I know you guys want to make a Clash test, so let's get into that. It's very simple. I'm going to create a first clash. So here, my first dialog you're going to see is my search sets. I have to choose one search set to clash against the other. Now I'm going to do the pretty standard structural versus mechanical clash that we see. I'm going to open up my folder here and my source file, and I'm going to select my structural and my mechanical straight model to model clashing. I get this warning down here at the bottom that this clash is already created. It definitely was. I can see it over here. And the reason why we have this warning to tell me where these search sets have already been used is, again, we don't want to necessarily duplicate work. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but we don't necessarily want to do it in this particular case. And hit done. So this is where some of our settings, those presets, can be used from previous tests. So if I've already run this test once before, I could select this and I can bring in all those settings, my grouping types, the metadata that I want. I don't have these selected because these are brand new. I'm in version 5.8, which you guys are going to see in a couple weeks. But I could definitely bring in how it's automated and our labels. But for today, we're going to go through all the steps, and I'm going to continue without import. These are the animations that Patrick was talking about, and I love them. I really do. So it makes it very clear what it is that our clearance is. I'll let the animation tell the story here, and what the tolerances are. Like how much can this penetrate? What sort of clearance space do we need? And we also have the ability to define that in the horizontal and vertical. So horizontal would be in that XY plane, and vertical would be the Z. So what elements do I want to clash? Elements or geometry? So the difference between elements and geometry is I want everybody to think of a door, and I'm going to use a Revit family as an example. A door family can consist of a panel, the frame, there might be hardware, there might be a clearance. So that's 4 things that we could return 4 clashes for one element. We don't necessarily want to do that. A door is a door, we want 1 clash. So that is where we define what an element is. So those geometries that make up that door, we might want to clash that. We might want to come up with something specific that, you know, we're clashing only a clearance, or perhaps just the frame is important. So we could definitely create a search set that uses just the geometry to clash. Now, what ignore clashes within the same element means is that, again, with that door panel is going to hit that door frame. We don't want that to be a clash. The same as if we had actually modeled hardware and, you know, we didn't cut the hole in the door. That's going to be a clash. We don't want that, so we want to ignore that. But today I'm doing straight structural versus mechanical, so I just want those elements. I also want to ignore clashes within the same model. So what that means is if I was doing, say, a mechanical versus mechanical clash, I would want to uncheck this. I want to see, you know, where those pipes are hitting those ducts, whether this different systems are colliding. But because I am doing one total model versus a different model, I'm going to check this. As for ignore duplicates, so this is when you get an exact kind of copy paste of an element. We don't want to, for example, floor slabs. If it was copied directly over from the architectural, we don't want 2 returns on that. We just want the 1. All right, the next step of our setup is our grouping. Now, I love the grouping. We looked at a lot of different grouping tools, and we try to take the best of all of it. So you see, I've opened up my proximity again. Love the animations. And we can define the sphere here, and the algorithm is going to find the best grouping that it can. What I really like is chained proximity, and it works pretty well for this type of test. What that means is we can define the sphere, but also how long that chain is. So this is really great for those long pipe runs, duct runs that might be going through a number of different joists, right? So let's keep that in there. I like that one. Okay, so we could run it right from here, but I'm going to add in a few more parameters that I want to group by. I do have zones, construction zones created in this model. Probably definitely want to do levels, so that'll help me in my vetting process. I could do a property condition. This is where we can really get into the details of things. Property B being my mechanical. I could define what the system name is, and then that will return groups like supply air or the SANI line. I'm not going to do that today, but that possibility is there. So one little tip though, the order of operation does matter. So I'm going to drag this one down to the bottom, and I want to go from larger scope down to smaller. You can see that this has automatically created the name for me. I can, maybe add in a dash here if I so need it. And my groups are automatically, my classes are also automatically named. All right, so those of you who have been into the Clash tool, you have seen this. This is our simple automation where we can assign a stamp template to the whole test. So I could have said everything in here is a mechanical clash. This was set up in our stamps. I might say, okay, well, 10 days is okay. Actually, let's give these to Dan. There we go. But here's the sneak peek. This is coming out in a couple of weeks. Let's switch to advanced automation. I am so excited to show you guys this. All right, this is where we get to break down how we're going to assign the clashes into the issue tracker. So the first condition I'm going to do, again, order of operation is important. I'm going to do an exclusions condition first. So this would be the type of stuff that I don't want to put into the issue tracker today. So I'm going to do an exclusion condition. I have a number of different ways that I can choose which group it is. So this is where setting up the grouping becomes important. So any clash group that has at least one of these objects. And this question came up earlier in the chat. What am I going to do with my floors? Now, again, I'm working with a Revit model, so I've defined these by categories. What am I going to do with my floors and my walls? And you can see I am choosing these out of my search sets, even my search sets that I've pre-set up. So what am I going to do with these? I'm not going to create an issue. Do nothing with them. Just leave them there until I have time to look through them. All right, let's add a second condition. So again, structural versus mechanical. So mechanical at the end of the day is two different traits. The model might be one, but those are two different traits. So let's see, let's make a ducts condition. Again, my search sets. Now I've pre-created most of these based on Revit categories. So what do I want to do with these ducts? Well, I do want to create an issue, but I'm not going to generalize and call it mechanical. I'm going to send this to my sheet metal people, right? Or the HVAC engineer. So we can see that that's given that a critical priority. Those are some of the bigger items that we might need to move. We've got a 2-week deadline, and Sean's going to look after that. Now, what do we do with the pipes? Let's do something similar. So my pipes, probably my fittings, the accessories. We're going to skip the insulation right now. I do want to create an issue. And this is going to go to my plumbing team. And this is pre-configured right out of my stamp template. But maybe, okay, the ducting is going into 2 weeks. I'm going to change this, let's give and 10 days. I got a couple, the deck guy's got a buffer there. All right, lastly, otherwise, again, order of operation. So it's gonna look for this condition first, then this one, and this one. Now, what do we do with the rest that don't land in any of those conditions? Well, for today, Now, I could have it create just that general stamp, but I'm just going to say don't create an issue. Okay, so that was the setup. Very simple. All the pop-ups come up, kind of explain everything that you need to do. Now, we haven't actually run the test yet, but you saw how quick that was and very clear. There is one thing that I do want to touch on before we actually test, and it did not come up in a pop-up, but this, we need to talk about it because it is what makes this tool collaborative, and it's the access rights. So you can see here, I have my Clash team in here. I could set out specific roles. So I can have my test administrator. They're going to have more roles. They can set up the tests. My Clash results editor. So that could be like the coordinator, or it could be the trade that you assign to them. And they'll go in and can you vet these clashes for me? And then we have, you know, somebody that might just want to come in and view, and they get no rights apparently, but you know, somebody that can come in and view. Now, something else that we have is Clash test privacy. So if we're working again with those multidisciplinary companies, they might do something internal. Again, maybe that mechanical model where you're working with, you know, the HVAC engineer and the plumbing engineer, and they just want to do an internal private test. But because we're clashing two different teams, I'm going to keep this as a public test. All right. So I am going to run the Clash test. Yes, I have set up my advanced automation. That would be this button here. We'll get there. But for right now, I'm just going to run the test. And you can see how quick that is and hopefully enough time for water.
Because our tool is so quick, Laura doesn't get a chance to drink. So I'm going to talk for a second so she will get a chance to have a drink of her bourbon or whatever she's drinking at this time in the morning in Calgary. One of the things that I wanted to share was one of our colleagues in the UK had said that they had run a Clash previously on another tool that does clash detection. And on that project, there were 3 million clashes. And when they ran it on that traditional tool, it took 45 hours to find those 3 million clashes. And it pushed them out after that as individual clashes that weren't grouped and they weren't coordinated in any way. And they weren't, they had no different level of priority. They were just the clashes that came out of the tool. We ran that same Clash inside of our Clash automation, and we use we do that processing on the cloud with multi-threaded processors. And when we did that same Clash for 3 million clashes, it took us 45 minutes to do that in Revizto Plus compared to the 45 hours it took in that other tool. So you're going to see a lot of things here around the ease of use of Revizto Plus. You're going to see a lot of streamlined processes to automate it and make life easier for the BIM person. But there is also the simple aspect that we're taking advantage of new technology to get a better result faster and more efficiently too. So there's that aspect that's well worth pointing out as well. And Laura, hopefully you got a chance to get a little bit of hydration there, and I'll turn it back over to you.
I did. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go through a little bit of the traditional workflow where we run Clash, then sync to the issue tracker, right? We do that vetting process. And you can see all my results here. I have tons of metadata that kind of comes with it. But what I really like, and here's our grouping, we have our group setting, we can change this on the fly. If that did not work for us, I can definitely change it. And a quick overview of all our clashes all at once. So it's all the flexibility in how it is that you want your people to vet a clash, whether or not they are going to be addressed later or not. So we have a number of different ways to do that. And the first thing that I like to do is just kind of see what the colors is. I select everything, it shows me every single clash, and I might just want to see, okay, all the clashes per level. Okay. How about construction zones? So you can flip through those. Now you can see my floors extend past those particular zones, so they are captured that way. I could also see what it looks like using those mechanical system colors. So a lot of flexibility in that. What I really, really like though is the filters. Now, this is totally by design under the development, but it makes everything so much simpler. So if I am needing to, where's my levels? Let's see. Maybe I have my lower floors to get through, you know, before the end of the week. So let's see what that looks like. So I have 43 clashes that I might need to review. I can go through and I can select those one by one, and it's going to navigate me to that clash. So here I have the duct hitting a column. Our status is what sets what we get synced into the issue tracker, and we have 3 of those. So everything comes in as not reviewed. Reviewed means I have looked at this and I'm saying, yes, that is a clash that definitely needs to be communicated to the rest of the team. I need to sync that with the issue tracker. Perhaps we have something a little more complicated, and I'm going to come back to it. I can skip that. That's going to be reviewed. There we go. We have a wall penetration here. So I can say that is approved. I'm going to come back and deal with that at another time and not sync that to the issue tracker. So regardless of whether we're using our 2 clicks to sync to the issue tracker or the one where we run and sync all in one go, approved will always stay within the clash automation tool. Again, if I want to come back to that at a later date, I can switch that back into reviewed or not reviewed. Okay, so let's test out that advanced automation. I know you guys definitely want to see that. I'm going to reset all my other filters here. I'm going to open up my more. So you can see I have many different ways that I can filter this. I'm going to turn on my advanced automation. So this is where we get to test how I set up those conditions. So I'm going to run the test. You see they come up in the order of operation. So my exclusions come in first. I'm going to hit that. And that has filtered my list down to what is excluded. And if I hit this, this should be all those walls and floor clashes you can see there. It doesn't mean that they're not actually clashes and I don't need to look at them. There are some penetrations in there that I need to come back to, but maybe they're not that high on the priority list for today. So, okay, those are fine. Let's see the other ones. So these are the 2 that I am going to sync to the issue tracker today. Let's have a look, just a general overview. So yeah, okay, we got some ducts that are hitting a number of joists. We have, yeah, some basic mechanical versus, structural clashes. So from here, I could, let me reset this. I could sync with the issue tracker. So again, that older extra step where I'm going to sync that one clash to the issue tracker. And I can do that because it's just one, it shouldn't take too long. All right, so you can see there, it's been sunk to the issue tracker. But I'm going to check this out again. See, we got fail safes. I am going to use the advanced automation. So I didn't bet any of these clashes. I am going to now sync over reviewed and not reviewed. Again, approved stays in there. And let's let it run.
See, there's not even enough chance there for me to break into song and dance or anything, Laura. Okay, I guess it's back to you talking again.
All right, so here we go. I got my info box come up and no new clashes were found because it did run the sync in the background. 17 new issues were created. So those were the 17 that I set up in my advanced automation. And you can see here, and I'm gonna adjust my filter to see how many of those were open. And you can see I have now created those 17 issues in the issue tracker they have different stamps depending on who they get assigned to or what discipline. I've got different priority levels. And
Laura,
I
if
can,
if
yeah.
it doesn't throw you off, would you mind following one of those that has multiple objects in it so that the audience can see how the issue tracker portrays those?
I was just going to do that.
Well, thank you.
There we go. So I just have to click on that blue link and it's going to bring me into the issue tracker here. And I can add my comments and markups just like I always would have, all right? There we go. So creative today with my test comment. But you can see here all the, all the metadata that comes with it. What level does that reside on? What room is it in? What construction zone? Who it was assigned to? The deadline is automatically populated.
And would you click the little 9 and object icon in the actual issue list there, so they can see? Yeah, so they can see what. So there's all your individual those individual clashes that were grouped accordingly, and the ability, as Laura's doing right now, to go through those and take you to each individual clash that's part of that group. So it gives you that added insight directly from the issue tracker now. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you. So you can see it is very simple. It's intuitive. It's customizable. Any group that doesn't happen to work out to like what you want to see, unless they've been synced to the issue tracker, those can be readjusted. And it's very, very flexible and easy to change. All these settings are transferable. And definitely can be exported and imported into other projects. Yeah, so all the power really is in those search sets. It can be as detailed and specific and manual as you want. You can have that control, or you can keep it as general and as automated as you're comfortable with. Yeah, and that was quick. I know you blocked out 40 minutes. How fast did I do that?
You came in just under 30, so there we go. And that's about what we expected. It's a pretty straightforward process. And I think the thing that is worth hammering home here is Laura really took you through all of the options here. We went through the big pictures and the general and our general thought process on what we're doing here. But keep in mind that these tests can be set up, these tests can be templated, like everything in Revizto, around our stamps, around our search sets. You can start to create, if you've got a healthcare process that you created for working on your healthcare projects, you can build on that and keep tweaking and changing it. And all of these steps that Laura went through still only took her 30 minutes in front of a live demo to walk through it. So it's not a complex process. And once you get it established, you can start to build and refine and change that as you move along into the clash process. So I think what we'll do is, and one other thing I think I'll mention here that we didn't even talk about. You know, it's some software companies come up with a really good function or feature or groundbreaking one, like we do with Revizto Plus's clash automation, and say, all right, that's what we've done. We're going to sit on our laurels for the next 2 years. Well, when we released this release of 5.7 that incorporated clash automation in it, we also had 150 other enhancements and features that were rolled out into this product. And this is just a year from our most ambitious release that we had at that time, Revizto 5. So there's a lot of stuff under the hood that's new, that's improved, that's efficient, that's adding data, like Laura pointed out, the location data that's coming in with your issues now. This is a Revizto Plus capability to bring that data in automatically. And you're going to see a lot of tools that have been designed particularly to make things easier and more efficient for our users, because our development path is typically built on top of the wish list that we get from the customers that we work with. So with all that said, of course, Laura, if anything else occurs to you, please, by all means, go ahead and show it. I'm going to take a look at what we've got in questions here. We've got a question here. Can you filter out some smaller dimensional elements using search sets or filters when doing a clash detection, i.e. pipes less than 2 inches?
Pipes in less than 2 inches, definitely. So again, it depends on how you want to set it up. So you could definitely do that with your search sets, right? Do that as an exclusion, just to remove those. You could run everything all at once. And again, using your search sets, if I check this out, if you had a search set that was geared to find those, you could say, okay, let's filter all the groups with us. I don't even know. I had one that had the pipe size in it. With that pipe size, then you could check those and say, okay, those are approved. You could also do it by the group. If I go in here and adjust my group settings, because that is a property condition. So any property with geometry is a property condition that we can use. So it could be that pipe size. It could be really anything if I type anything in here. So if I did element B and got down into the nitty gritty with size, there's a lot within that. That was pretty generic. But if I had my parameter and I knew what that was, mechanical, here we go, mechanical size. Wherever that property lives. I don't know where it is right now, but you definitely
well,
can.
and I think the thing to take away from that is that that if you're a design firm and you have some basic parameters that you want to do to help you get to a clash-free design, you can do that like another application that's out in the industry. You can keep that nice and simple and automated if you want to. But the thing that we got as the driver from our customers as we were building this is that they wanted to be able to get into that nuance when the time call came for it, and to be able to set that up. And I think this is probably a good opportunity for me to talk just a little bit about the fact that when we went through development here, this was a pretty, as a tool that's known for collaboration, this was a very collaborative effort to build this. When we built Revizto 5 last year, it was with the intention of having a more effective understanding between objects in our tool so that we could build our clash automation on top of it. And over this last year, our VDC team, our implementation managers, were meeting weekly with our development team, and they were talking about the industry concerns that they had when they were working out in the industry, but that also what our customers were telling them. And then our development team would make them reframe this. Hey, you say you want this, but what are you trying to accomplish? Because we can write the software to do this a better way. And there was a lot of that kind of give and take that happened through that. It was a very interesting process, I think, for all of us to see. And it's now created the fabric of how we're developing our features moving forward, is that we brought out a tool that was pretty much ready for prime time right as soon as we started to open it up to closed beta. And it's because of that kind of feedback. But yes, the nuance and being able to get into this detail is all in here. Now I'm going to go through the chat, Laura, and see. We got lots of people that want to get that want to get prizes, so we'll talk about those in a minute. I think Jameson's working on a list for the fleeces and the bottles, and we've got a few POCs. So I'm going to have to go through that list and get back with a POC winner after this. Let me see. I'm going to go. I'm not qualified to answer the difference between ISO 27001 and 19650-5. I would have to put that in Google, so I'm afraid I can't answer that right now. And you got Francois at Axor talking about getting up and running with their super hospital in Quebec on their POC going on there. So it's always nice when you have a client to jump in there and brag about how well things are going for them. Can you export a clash results into Excel, Laura?
So we don't have the ability to export directly from the clash tool itself. I know it's something that you see in BIM execution plans, right? Like you get the report that the fellows were talking about earlier, right? Okay, you got like this Excel report of thousands of clashes, and what's the context now? And I'm going to throw out my opinion here. It's something that we had to ask, we as the industry had to ask, because it was the only thing. Well, the way that we see our clash tool and sitting side by side with the issue tracker, it's that the clash tool finds the clashes. but it's the issue tracker that tracks, it reports, it's the communication where this clash, this interference is of value to communicate to the rest of the team. And those reports still come out of the issue tracker. The automation, I think, is going to make those reports more palatable because you can't automate that now, right? You can still get the long list, but now you're filtering out those things that might not be critical, and it can keep up to date. So that would be the reason why we don't have a direct just export and create all my pictures.
Now, and to touch on that, we do have 2 reporting tools inside of Revizto. So anything that's in the issue tracker, we can set customized reports that can either be sent out on a recurring interval or our live dashboards to look at the results of what's going on. And this comes down to the data that we get out of our Clash automation as well. And as I mentioned when I was talking about things that are in development, we have an API integration in development for being able to get that data straight out into tools like Power BI. So that's going to be coming as well as an advanced data capability of Revizto Plus. So that might also help solve this if the reports don't get you exactly where you need to go. Let's see here. How do you deal with a large project with different phases, Laura? Any short, I guess, summary how you might do that? That's a pretty good question.
Probably with search sets or the zones, right? It depends on what phase that you're in, because we do want these projects to communicate and go through the whole process. Those construction zones might change. In the design phase, and I'm going to speak about Revit because that's my background and most of my knowledge, phases do come in when you export from Revit, so you can turn that into a property condition in your search sets, and you could just search for, phase 1 construction, phase 2. So yeah, again, all the power is kind of in the search sets and how detailed you want to make those.
And we got a question here from Viviana. Do you guys find a big difference in how other software like Navisworks groups the clashes and how Revizto Plus is doing it? Do you find Revizto Plus too specific when it comes to group and set up the clashes?
Well, again, it depends on how you want it set up. You saw the different metadata property that we have, the levels and zones and things like that. And you can keep it as generic. I know a lot of folks are used to just doing that proximity group and just seeing what's everything that's in that area. So when we did the development for this, we looked at almost all the grouping tools that are out there that are add-ons to Navisworks to see what we liked, what the industry was using, what didn't work. So a lot of that was built in, and that's why you see all the flexibility. And like I said, if you set up the group a certain way and it's not the results you want, then it's easy adaptable. You don't even have to rerun the Clash. I'm still sharing my screen, right? It's just a matter of right-clicking and regroup non-manually grouped clashes, and it will do that for everything that's not already in the issue tracker and items that are not manually grouped.
Thank you, Laura. Got a long question here from Roland, and it's basically around the idea of automating the identification process of issues with the idea of having algorithms that present resolution options. And I think it's too early in our Clash automation stage to talk about how that might fit into our long-term or short-term plans. But I'm going to just simply leave it as Roland. I agree with you. That would be very helpful if a tool did that, and we'll just leave it at that. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Sorry, that's the best answer I can give you on that right now. Let's see. I'm looking here to see. Yeah, and again, Roland with another question about that being able to use the Excel spreadsheet to feed into Dynamo, and I think that again, you probably with our API integration, we're going to get closer to what you're trying to do than with our default reporting right now. But again, that's one of those things. If we get in those specific use cases, we can certainly engage in a offline conversation to have that conversation. So I don't know if there's any. I'm looking here. We got a few more questions in here. Most of our consultants use CAD. Can your clash detection function using a mix of 2D and 3D?
So we can run, we're clashing objects. So if you're talking CAD in the sense of, you know, anything that's CAD based, Civil 3D, MEP, Plant 3D, those are definitely objects. I haven't tested it with lines. We do have the ability to bring in line work. One of the interesting things with combining the 2D and 3D, bear with me, see if I can do this, is we can overlay the 2D sheet. Now, whenever I try to do this on the fly, it doesn't go very well, but let's see if I can find a decent enough clash. Here we go. Two boxes hitting each other, what's the context? So I need to lock my section box here, and I'm gonna come over into my 2D. Let's go back. Allow me to find the sheet. I need to know. So I can definitely see where that is right from the issue tracker, right? So, ooh, what happened to my tools? By hitting the 2D here, right? Apparently that's not on a sheet. All right, on the fly, on the fly stuff.
Yeah, brave girl doing the on the fly stuff. I love this.
All right, I just need to find out what level this is. Level 1, res block 2. Okay. And it worked. All right, so there is that clash.
You know, like all the other tools that do clash automation and let you do a 2D over. Oh, wait a minute. I guess that's us. Okay.
There we go. And there's where the clash is on the 2D sheet. I can keep that sheet where it is. And now that I'm back in my 3D space and I've locked that section box, it should stay. There we go. Navigated me underneath, but that's fine. You can flip that over. There we go. So yeah, we can overlay with the 2D.
And we got another question here. Can you add class number to your group class name?
A number. Okay, so a number is automatically created. It's not going to come up in the name. Let me see. But it does get added when you sync. I can remember where that setting is. It should add it. Here we go. Add a clash number to the issue name. So there is that connection between the clash and the issue tracker. We don't have the ability to add the number here. Every group does get a unique number. So that should be over here on this side. So there is that unique number, and these are totally flexible to move these, you know, right next to it if that's what you need.
Perfect, thanks. I had asked the question about an example of a point cloud clash. You had showed that at the start of the session. I don't know if you want to go into my open point cloud.
There we go.
And you had, sorry, go ahead.
Here's my caveat with this. So they are still tweaking it. I still have my section box on. So you can see here, we can clash geometry with the point cloud, and depending on the algorithm for the grouping, that's how that's going to get reported back. Like I said, it's still a work in progress. You're going to see it in 5.8. So definitely would enjoy anybody's feedback on that.
Thanks, Laura. After grouping clashes sent to the issue tracker, is it not possible to touch that grouping clash detection panel? If another clash pops up in the same area based on that grouping criteria, is it possible to add it to the existing group and do not create a new group or issue?
So the reason we cannot add a brand new clash to something that's been synced into the issue tracker is that the issue tracker is where we've communicated that something needs to be addressed and changed. So if I, go to the effort, making that group, sync it over, that's assigned to somebody now, and they're working on it. And if that is not fixed, then we don't necessarily want to add to that group because they're not going to recognize that something's changed. So you're going to get a new clash hit, but it's going to end up in the same area, right? So that's where, if I turn on, let me select this. If I start turning on things like show me where the issues are, you're going to see them start to cluster, right? Same idea with the 2D, and we get our clustering of issues. We do want to keep those dates, like that group was created on a certain date. We want to track that it's still not done, and you have, somebody has another issue in that area. So that would be the reason why we don't add to a group, right? It's that collaboration where we don't want to confuse the task at hand.
Perfect. Well, and I think we've gone through all the questions. I've got Jameson has already communicated to me our winners for, we have 2 fleeces, one going to either Jaime or Jamie Bettencourt. Sorry if I butchered your name. I hopefully not too badly. And Brad Erickson is the other fleece winner. For our bottles, Krishna Patel, Randall Anderson, and Viviana Urego are winners for those. We will pick some people that we'll send some sticker packs to as well. And as I said, I've got to go through the list here and see who said that, yep, a POC, I'd love to do that. And we'll get back to you guys and give you a winner and go from there. I really appreciate you guys taking time with Laura and I. Again, I want to thank Guillaume and Patrick and Sebastian and Hamad for joining us here today and being involved with our panel. I thought we got some really good insight. If you guys have any questions about Revizto Plus, if you want to talk about the license model, we can go from there. I think that is actually, we have one more slide there, Laura, which I do want to cover. And if you can go back to the 2D space. Hey, no problem. So one thing I haven't talked about, and we'll wrap this up, is that this impacts our license model. So with it should be slide 13, I think. Oh no, you got it, slide 12. So we now have 2 license options. We've got our Revizto, which will still be this core product will be what half of our customers at least will still be using, I'm sure. And for those people that are looking for issue tracking and real-time coordination to navigate between 2D and 3D, our Revizto standard product will still continue to be developed as our core product. Revizto Plus, as I mentioned, this is our premium integrated solution. That Clash, right now it looks like, okay, well, that's Clash automation. Well, as I mentioned, we've got a lot of integration coming in the months ahead, some of them coming right around the corner here. And the goal of Revizto Plus is for those advanced BIM teams that want to add a level of automation. We have early bird pricing discount of 30% available for anyone who says, hey, yeah, we want to figure out a plan to get involved with this and we're ready to make a commitment this month. Then by all means, please reach out to me and we can go over the pricing and options that you have available to you to make that move. But this is a really great time if you guys are looking for a solution for Clash automation and you think that Revizto might be it. There's no time like now to be able to make that move. And we think that you're going to feel just as giddy as our current users that are using Revizto Plus right now and simplifying their process. We have one more QA that came in. Okay, there's nothing else there. So we are set then. And Syed, if you want to reach out directly to me, Laura, do you want to go to the next screen? It has our email addresses on it. My email address is there. Laura's is there. Greg is our North American sales director, North American, South American sales director. You know, if you had to listen to my bad jokes all day and you really want to complain about me, you can do that to Greg, I guess. But with that being said, again, I want to thank everybody on our panel for their generosity in joining us. We thank you for taking 2 hours out of your time to come join us here today. We hope we showed you some things that got you excited about what we're doing with Revizto Plus. I know we're very excited about what we're offering right now. So please reach out to us with any questions that you have. That's what Laura and I are here to do, is to help you guys out. And I hope you guys have a great holiday season. And thanks again for joining us. With that, we'll let you go and have a great one. Bye now.
Bye.